Now it's all systems go for the 26th ANC Youth League Conference to be held at the Nasrec Expo Center this weekend. The long-awaited conference is expected, has started today and is expected to end around Tuesday. Now, Colin Malachi is vying for the presidency role, while Pumzile Mqina is gunning for the deputy president position. Joining us now is the party's former Youth League deputy president, Andile Lungisa. Mr. Lungisa, good evening and thank you so much for joining us.
No, evening, sir. Thank you for inviting me.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. Mr. Lungisa, when we talk of the ANC Youth League, of course, during your time when you served as the deputy president, it was seen as the heyday of the organization at that time. What do you think has gone wrong for the Youth League now, and do you feel that there has to be changes in order for it to still have a sense of relevancy?
No, what happened, I think, at the hand of the ANC, also of the ANC leadership in 2012, where they came to the matters of the Youth League. You must remember the Youth League at that time, it came with the program of action. That program of action never only shaken anti-progressive forces in South Africa. It also tampered with the anti-progressive forces in the African continent, also in the whole world. Those who have always opposed to Africans owning the means of production, to Africans owning land, to Africans being part of the mainstream of the economy in their own land of birth. They came together all over the world. That is why you will see later the Youth League was then disbanded. And until today, the Youth League have not really recovered, which I don't think it will ever recover. When we talk about the recovery, we're not talking about individuals who get elected in conferences. Others, they can argue that there was a leadership which was elected up to 2015 conference of the Youth League. Also, others, they'll argue that even this weekend, the leaders will be elected. Ours is not about, we don't measure leaders. We measure through a program of action. That is why we always saluted the generation of 1944, because they came with the program of action of 1948 and 1949, which was developed at the University of Fort, which led to what was called the Defiance Campaign, which was led by the ANC in 1952. The generation where we elected in 2001, where the program which we developed was then adopted in the Conference of the Youth League at Gallagher in 2011. That is why we'll always salute that generation equal to the generation of 1944. Beyond that, I don't think there's any other generation which we can salute. Obviously, we will respect those who becomes what is called office bearers for a time period, but we know that there's no program of action which can be developed equally to the generation of 1944, equally to the generation of 2008, which came with that program of action at Gallagher Estate in 2011. That is why we're saying that is the history. Even the ones who will be elected over the weekend, yes, we'll support them as office bearers, but we know beyond their names and surnames, there's nothing which they can really offer. We're not talking about offering, we're talking about a total change in South Africa, we're talking about a total change in the African continent. That is why the leadership which we're part of, it then influenced not only in South Africa, that influence, it was in the African continent. That's why that leadership managed even to host a festival of youth, which was an anti-imperialist festival, where more than 127 countries came to our own country, South Africa. It will never happen again. That's why we're saying, yes, we support, we respect the process. We wish the Conference of the Youth League to succeed. Those who are elected, they will have our own support. But as we support them, we know we're just supporting names and surnames. There will never be any moment where we can have young people who are radical, like that generation of 2008 up to 2011. Because you must remember, those were youngsters where they were elected. There was no participation of the ANC, no influence of the ANC. If you can read the Youth League in 2015, there was a huge influence of the ANC. Even now, the ANC is actively involved. There will never be a recovery of the Youth League in terms of content of our revolution. Yes, in terms of individuals, where they can take pictures to say, I'm handsome, I'm beautiful. You will always have them.
Mr. Lungisa, a lot of the delegates within the Youth League have said that the elders are interfering in the election process or in this conference. Are they fair in saying that, or do you think it's an unfair statement from their regards?
No, there's no unfair statement. The interference started in 2012 in the conference of the ANC in Bloemfontein, where there were those who were pushing for the Youth League to be disbanded at the conference. But luckily, there were also delegates of the ANC in that conference coming from structures of the ANC. We argued against any disbandment of the Youth League. That's why the conference failed to disband the conference of the Youth League, or the leadership of the Youth League. But after that conference, those who had the agenda that the Youth League must be disbanded, they then succeeded. They succeeded in disbanding the Youth League because there was then a firm hand on the side of the ANC, because they tampered with the autonomy of the Youth League. That autonomy was killed in 2012 in the conference of the Youth League, when there was a direct discussion on the question of the Youth League. When the Youth League was disbanded, until that time, until today, the Youth League has not recovered in terms of its own autonomy. What is only there is leaders who are elected through the accord of the ANC. That's the reality. That's why we're saying it will be really difficult to say the Youth League will never come back. In terms of program of action, we're not talking about individuals. Yes, it's easy to print a banner. It's easy to convene a conference. It's easy to elect individuals. But what is difficult is for individuals to come with a program of action, which will be anti-forces, which are anti-change in South Africa. Those who are anti-change in South Africa, they are very dominant. That's why we're saying even in this conference, it will be a conference which will elect leaders. Yes, we will elect the leaders, will support those who are elected. We'll know that they will take nice photos, they will take nice pictures. We are not anti-pictures, we are not anti-photos, but what we know, there will never be any program of action which can tamper with means of production in this country, which can return the land to those who were dispossessed the land through the wars of land dispossession. That is my argument. I will be happy the leadership and everyone who are in the ranks of the Youth League that they must prove us wrong by tampering with the means of production, by making sure that Africans, they are not paupers in their own land of birth. They are part of the economy in this country. They are not beggars. They are not standing in the robots unemployed. It's what we'll always expect from the Youth League.
One final question now, Mr. Lungisa, because we are running out of time. Whoever the leadership is elected this weekend, the problems of the youth are many, especially unemployment being one of them. That's just the one that there is right there, the one real negative aspect with regards to the youth. But what would this leadership need to do to try and put pressure on the mother body in order to make sure that any implementations to put South Africa on the right track are implemented?
No, there can be no pressure which can be put in the motherboard. I think we must wait for those who will be born to put a pressure on the motherboard. If you can really assess after the cartage of the disbandment of the Youth League, there's nothing which can be done. I'll just give you a simple example. When we were part of the leadership of the Youth League, you remember as a deputy president, president was Comrade Julius, Comrade Vuyiswa Tulelo was the Secretary General, Comrade Stephen Goben was the Deputy Secretary General, Comrade Pulamabe was the Treasurer General. Comrade Pulamabe never went to Parliament. He refused to be in Parliament to be a councillor. Comrade Stephen Goben never went to Parliament. He refused to go to Parliament, refused to be a councillor. Comrade Vuyiswa Tulelo, because she was full-time, she never went to Parliament. She never became a councillor. She refused. Myself, I never went to parliament. I refused to go to parliament. I refused to be a council. President Julius Malema refused to go to parliament and refused to be a council because we had a program of action, including the comrades who are part of the body, the NEC, because we're focusing on the program of action to tamper with the means of production, to make sure that the mines are nationalized. Land is in the hands of Africans in this country. We marched for jobs. We went to Johannesburg Stock Exchange, from Johannesburg to Pretoria. It's what that generation did. But I will tell you, all the ones who then go down to the leadership of the ANC, the conference which came and elected our comrade, Colin Mayim, all of them, they went to parliament, they became MECs, they became councillors, they became everything else, because to them, it was not about championing the interests of young people. It was not about the broader economic agenda in this country. It was no longer about the means of production in this. It was not longer about aligning with the progressive forces all over the world. That's why we spoke about what was called the Global South. That's why today we've got what is called BRICS. Because it's us, that generation, which laid a foundation. Even the generation which is going to be elected now, which we call their office bearers, we will support their names, we will support their claim names, we will support their surnames. But they are not going to come with any program of action. What we'll see, it will be the call that they want to be councillors in 2026. They will want to be members of parliament in 2024. That's why we're saying there will be never be a revolution. There will be never any revolutionary cause. We'll just be playing with our emotions and our own feelings. Some of us will pass that stage to just emotionally sabotage ourselves. That's why we're saying we wish the Conference of the Youth League a success, including those who will be elected. But we know that there will be no fundamental really change, was what has happened. Those who are in the Youth League, they have long moved away from the broader agenda of the Youth League of 1944, of Anton Lembede, of Mxolisi Machombozi. What becomes the agenda is only positions which they've practiced, they've learned from the elders. There's no revolutionary really cause.
Mr. Lungisa,
I'm gonna champion jobs, fight issues of unemployment, fight for issues of free education.
Mr. Lungisa, I'm gonna have to stop you. Mr. Lungisa, Mr. Lungisa, I'm gonna have to stop you. I really do apologize. We are against time. We'd like to thank you so much for joining us here on Hilaal TV. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much, sir.
That's Andile Lungisa, former ANC Youth League Deputy President, giving us his thoughts ahead of the ANC Youth League Conference that will be taking place this weekend. It has already started today and will end around Tuesday. After the break, I'll have your latest in news. Do stay tuned.